Fear often approaches our lives quietly at first, slipping in through the cracks of our thoughts and gradually building its own space within us. Sometimes it comes loudly, shaking us, overwhelming us, and trying to convince us that everything we are facing is bigger than we can handle. But in the middle of all this noise, in the middle of the trembling heart and the trembling mind, there is a voice, steady, strong, unmovable. It is the voice of God saying, "Do not fear, for I am with you." This single sentence has the power to uproot every doubt and silence every storm inside you, because God is not simply giving comfort, He is declaring a truth that reshapes your entire reality. When God speaks these words, He is not observing your fear from a distance. He is stepping into the very space where that fear is operating. He is announcing His presence right where your thoughts are spinning, right where your heart is anxious, right where your strength feels drained. Fear thrives where we feel alone. It grows where we believe we have to carry burdens by ourselves. It multiplies when we think we are unprotected, unseen, or unsupported. But God destroys that illusion the moment He says, "I am with you." His presence confronts fear at its root. What makes this statement powerful is not just the instruction to stop fearing, but the reason behind it, because He is with you. He does not say, "Do not fear because you are strong," or "Do not fear because the situation will magically fix itself." He does not base the command on your ability. He bases it on His presence. That means the strength of the command is tied to the strength of the one who speaks it. And the one who speaks it is the creator of the universe, the one who holds time, the one who never loses a battle, the one who never abandons His children. When God says, "Do not fear," it is not empty encouragement. It is a shift in authority. Fear no longer has the right to control your reactions, your decisions, or your destiny. His presence becomes your shield. His presence becomes your stability. His presence becomes your courage. Even when the situation around you looks unchanged, His nearness changes you. It strengthens your spirit, lifts your head, steadies your heart, and reminds you that you are not fighting alone. Think about the moments in your life when fear felt overwhelming. Fear of the future, fear of failure, fear of losing something important, fear of stepping into the unknown. In each of those moments, the enemy wants you to focus. When God speaks the words, "Do not fear," He is not offering a gentle suggestion or a soft whisper meant to comfort temporarily. He is giving a divine command that carries the full weight of His authority. But unlike human commands, which often come without help, God immediately attaches His promise to His instruction. He doesn't simply tell you what to do. He tells you why you can do it. And the reason is powerful because He is with you. That connection between command and promise changes everything. God never asks you to do something without giving you the strength, backing, and presence to carry it out. In moments of fear, we often question our capacity. We wonder whether we are strong enough, wise enough, or brave enough to face what lies ahead. But God does not root His command in our abilities. He roots it in His companionship. When He tells you not to be afraid, He is not basing it on your emotional stability, your financial security, your talents, or your comfort. He is basing it on his unchanging presence, his unlimited power, and his faithful character. That means the command does not fluctuate with your circumstances or your feelings. It remains firm because the one who gave it remains firm. Many people hear the words, "Do not fear," and think it's an impossible task. They assume God is asking them to instantly erase their anxiety or become immune to worry. But that's not what he is saying. He is not telling you to pretend you don't feel fear. He is telling you not to let fear control you. And he can demand that because he promises right in the same breath that you are not facing anything alone. His command and his promise are perfectly intertwined. One gives direction, the other gives assurance. One confronts the emotion, the other strengthens the heart. When God commands you not to fear, he is stripping fear of its legitimacy. He is declaring that fear has no authority over your life, no permission to dictate your decisions, no right to shape your destiny. And the reason fear loses authority is because God's presence is the ultimate authority. You don't obey the command because you feel courageous. You obey it because you trust the one who stands with you. His presence carries enough strength to silence your doubts, enough power to calm your racing thoughts, and enough love to steady your trembling heart. Think about how powerful it is that the creator of heaven and earth ties his own identity to your courage. He says, "Do not fear because I am with you," not because the situation is small, not because the outcome is predictable, not because you are naturally brave, but because the God who has never failed, who has never been defeated, who has never abandoned his children, is standing right beside you. When you understand that the command not to fear flows directly from God's promise to stay with you, it transforms how you respond to challenges. You stop asking, "Am I able?" and start declaring, "God is with me." You stop looking at the size of the mountain and start looking at the size of the one who moves mountains. The command loses its heaviness because the promise carries you. The fear loses its voice because the presence of God speaks louder. And the battle loses its intimidation because the victory is already in his hands. When God tells you, "I am with you," he is giving more than comfort. He is giving partnership. He is giving support. He is giving reinforcement. He is giving himself. And when God gives himself, he does not come as a passive observer in your struggle. He comes as an active presence, fully engaged in every detail of your battle. There is something powerful in knowing that you are not standing alone, because loneliness magnifies fear, but presence magnifies courage. When you recognize that God stands beside you, you begin to walk with a different posture, speak with a different confidence, and face challenges with a different strength. His presence changes the entire atmosphere of your life. There are moments in life when you feel the pressure of the valley, the kind of pressure that tells you the journey is too long and the path is too dark. But God walks with you right through that valley. He doesn't push you from behind or shout directions from above. He steps onto the same ground you are standing on. He moves with you through the very seasons where you feel weakest. And his presence in the valley reminds you that shadows cannot stop you, darkness cannot overpower you, and discouragement cannot bury you. You walk through what others might collapse under because you are not walking in your own strength. You are walking with God. And when storms arise, and they will, God does not leave you to face the wind alone. He stands beside you in the storm. He is the anchor that keeps you from drifting, the refuge that shields you from the damage, and the calm that speaks to your troubled heart. Fear tries to tell you that the storm is too strong, but God's presence reminds you that He is stronger. Fear tries to tell you that the waves will overwhelm you, but God stands beside you and whispers, "Peace, be still." His companionship becomes your stability in the turbulence. Some battles are not external, they are internal. The battle in your mind, the battle in your emotions, the battle in your spirit, these battles often feel the loneliest because no one else can truly see them. But even in those invisible struggles, God stands with you. He fights beside you. He strengthens what feels weak and breathes courage into what feels defeated. He becomes the shield that guards your mind and the voice that counters every lie with truth. You may not see Him with your eyes, but you feel His strength in the places where you should have broken but didn't. And when life knocks you down, because life doesn't always play fair, God is right there too. He doesn't stand over you and criticize your fall. He reaches out His hand. He holds you when you feel like collapsing. He steadies you when you think you can't get back up. His presence becomes the difference between giving up and rising again. You rise not because the situation gets lighter, but because He lifts you. Throughout every valley, every storm, every battle, and every fall, the truth stands firm. God does not leave you to face anything alone. His presence is not occasional. It is constant, not temporary, but eternal, not symbolic, but real. And because He stands with you, you face life with a courage that fear cannot dismantle. His presence is the greatest gift, the greatest strength, and the greatest assurance you have. Fear has a way of slipping into the deepest parts of a person's heart. It never asks for permission, and it never arrives politely. It shows up in moments of silence, in the stillness of the night, in the pauses between decisions. It disguises itself as caution, worry, overthinking, or just being realistic, but its true intention is to take control of your heart. Fear tries to convince you that the worst possible outcome is the most likely one. It magnifies uncertainty, exaggerates danger, and whispers lies about your worth, your strength, and your future. It targets your vulnerabilities because it knows that if it can enter your heart, it can influence your life. Many people live in a constant state of fear, fear of the unknown, fear of the past repeating itself, fear of failure, fear of not being enough, fear of being judged, fear of losing someone they love. These fears do not just sit quietly. They begin to shape the way you walk, the way you speak, and the way you make decisions. They can shrink your dreams, silence your voice, and limit your potential. Fear wants to make you forget who you are and, more importantly, whose you are. It wants you to operate from insecurity instead of identity. It wants you to focus on what you lack instead of the God who stands with you. But fear is a liar. It uses your imagination against you. It paints pictures that feel real but are built on assumptions, not truth. It feeds on loneliness, uncertainty, and exhaustion. The enemy knows that if he can get you to believe the lie long enough, you will start acting as if it is the truth. That is why fear attacks the heart so aggressively, because the heart is where faith lives, and the enemy's greatest threat is a person who believes in God more than they believe in their fear. Yet, even though fear tries to control you, it never has the final say. It may come loudly, but it does not come with authority. It may attack your courage, but it cannot diminish God's strength. It may shake your confidence, but it cannot shake God's promises. The fears that come to dominate your mind are no match for the God who guards your soul. You are not defined by the fears you face. You are defined by the presence of the one who stands with you. Fear becomes powerless the moment you realize you are not facing life alone. It loses its grip when you remember that God is not distant or silent. He is with you in every moment, every decision, every challenge. His voice is stronger than the whispers of fear. His truth is louder than the lies that try to paralyze you. Fear tries to make you forget that, but God continually calls you back to the truth. You are held, you are guided, you are protected, and you are never alone. The human heart may naturally feel fear, but it was never meant to be ruled by fear. It was meant to be filled with faith in a God who never leaves, never fails, and never abandons his children. And when that faith rises, fear loses its power. When God steps into a situation, something shifts at the very core of it. Fear thrives in emptiness, emptiness of hope, emptiness of direction, emptiness of confidence. It grows in the dark corners of uncertainty where you feel you have no control. But when God enters that same space, he brings his presence, and his presence brings light. And where there is light, darkness cannot remain. Fear may try to cling to your thoughts, but it cannot survive where God is actively moving. His presence is not symbolic or theoretical. It is powerful, living, and transformative. It changes the environment around you and the atmosphere within you. Fear gains strength when you stare at the size of the problem, but it weakens when you focus on the size of your God. The presence of God reframes your reality. What once looked overwhelming becomes manageable. What once seemed impossible now looks conquerable. Fear builds mountains in your imagination, but the presence of God brings the faith that moves mountains in real life. Fear whispers, you can't, but God declares, I am with you. And the moment his voice enters, every lie fear told begins to unravel. God's presence doesn't always remove the storm immediately, but it removes the panic inside the storm. It doesn't always change the situation instantly, but it changes you in the situation. Fear may still try to approach, but it cannot dominate a heart that is already occupied by God. A heart filled with his presence becomes a place where courage grows naturally. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the awareness of who stands beside you. When you know God is with you, fear loses its authority to dictate your emotions or influence your decisions. There are moments in life when fear feels so heavy that it's hard to breathe, hard to think, and hard to believe that things will get better. But in those very moments, God steps in, not as a distant observer, but as a present help. He brings comfort that fear cannot steal peace that fear cannot touch, and strength that fear cannot weaken. His presence becomes a shield around your mind and a fortress around your spirit. You don't overcome fear by trying harder. You overcome fear by becoming more aware of his nearness. The presence of God breaks fear's illusion of power. Fear makes itself look enormous, but it is fragile in the presence of divine truth. Fear tells you that you are alone, but God's presence declares that you are surrounded. Fear tells you that you are weak, but God's presence reminds you that his strength is made perfect in your weakness. Fear tries to freeze your steps, but God's presence calls you to move forward in faith. And once God steps into your story, fear cannot continue writing the chapter. Fear loses its grip when you realize that God is greater than anything you face. His presence carries authority, and where his authority stands, fear cannot reign. When God steps into the room, fear must step out. When God takes his place in your heart, fear must surrender its position. And when his presence fills your life, the very things that once intimidated you become stepping stones toward your purpose. His presence doesn't just weaken fear, it entirely disarms it.